Indian polity, salient features of the Constitution. The Indian Constitution is unique in its context and spirit, though borrowed from the almost every constitution of the world. The Constitution of the India has several salient features that distinguish it from the constitutions of the other countries. It should be noted at our outset that a number of original features of the Constitution as adopted in 1949 have undergone a substantial change on account of the several amendments, particularly 7, 42, 44th, 73rd, 74th, 97th, 101st, the amendments. In fact, the 442, 42 would Amendment Act 1976 is known as mini constitution due to the important and large number of the changes it in the various constitution. However, in the Kesavanand Bharati case, 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that constitutional power of the parliament under the Article 368 does not enable it to alter the basic structure of the constitution. The salient features of the constitution at its stand today are as follows. 1. 98 for written constitution. Constitutions are classified into written like the American Constitution or the unwritten like the British Constitution. The Constitution of India is the 90th of all the written constitutions of the world. It is very comprehensive, elaborated and detailed document. Originally in 1949, the Constitution contained the preamble 395 articles divided into the 22 parts and to the 8 schedules. Presently, 2019, it consists of the preamble, about 470 articles divided into the various amendments carried out since the 1951 have deleted about 20 articles and one part, part number 7, and added about 95 articles, 4 parts, 4A, 9A, 9B, and 15A, and 4 schedules 9, 10, 11, and 12. No other constitution in the world has so many articles and schedules. 4 factors have contributed to the elephant size of our constitution. They are A. Geographic factors, that is the vastness of the country and its diversity. B. Historical factors, that is to say, the influence of the government of the India Act into 1935, which was bulky. C. Single constitution for the both centers and the states. D. Dominance of the legal luminaries of the Constitution Assembly. The Constitution contains not only the fundamental principles of the governance but also detailed administrative provisions. Further, though those matters which in other modern democratic countries have been left to the ordinary legislation or the established the political convention have also been included into the constitution document and itself in India. 2. Drawn from the various sources, the Constitution of the India has borrowed most of its provinces from the constitutions of the various other countries as well as from the Government of the India Act of the 1935. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar proudly acclaimed that the Constitution of India has been framed after the ransacking all the known constitutions of the world. The structural part of the Constitution is to a large extent derived from the Government of the India Act of the 1935. The philosophical part of the Constitution, the fundamental rights and a directive principle of the state policy derived from the inspiration from the American and the Irish Constitution, respectively. The political part of the Constitution, the principle of the cabinet government and the relations between the executive and to the legislature have been largely drawn from the British Constitution. The other provisions of the Constitution have been drawn from the Constitution of the Canada, Australia, Germany, USSR, now Russia, France, South Africa, Japan, and so on. The most profound influence and the material source of the Constitution is the Government of the India Act 1935, the federal scheme, judiciary, governance, emergency powers, the public service commissions, and most of the administrative details are drawn from this act. More than the half of the provinces of the Constitution are identical to or bear a close resemblance to the Act of the 1935. 3. Blend of the rigidity and flexibility. Constitutions are also classified into the rigid and the flexible. A rigid constitution is one that requires a special procedure for its amendments as for the example American Constitution. A flexible constitution on the other hand is one that can be amended into the same manner as the ordinary laws are made, as for example the British Constitution. The Constitution of India is neither rigid nor flexible, but a synthesis of the both. Article 368 provided for the two types of the amendment. A. Some provisions can be amended by the special majority of the parliament, that is to say, a two-third majority of the members of the each house present and voting, and majority of the total membership of the each house. B. Some other provinces can be amended by the special majority of the parliament and with the rectification by the half of the total states. At the same time, some provisions of the constitution can be amended by the simple majority of the parliament into the manner of the ordinary legislative process. Notably, these amendments do not come under the Article 368. Number 4. Federal system of the unitary bias. The Constitution of the India establishes a federal system of the government. It contains all the usual features of the federation wise to government, division of the power, written constitution, supremacy of the constitution, rigidity of the constitution, independent judiciary, and bicameralism. However, the Indian Constitution also contains a large number of the unitary or the non-federal features, vice a strong central single constitution, single citizenship, flexibility of the constitution, integration state judiciary, appointment of the state governor by the center, on India service, emergency provisions, and so on. Moreover, the term federation has nowhere been used in it. The Constitution, Article 1, on the other hand, described India as a union of the state, which implies two things. One, Indian federation is not the result of the agreement by the states, and two, no state has the right to succeed from the federation. Hence, the Indian Constitution has been variously described as the federal in the form, but unitary into the spirit, quasi-federal by the Casey Weir. Bargaining federalism by the Maurice Jones, cooperative federalism by the Granville, Austin federation with the centralizing tendency by the Ivor Jensing, and so on. Number 5. The parliamentary form of the government. The Constitution of the India has opted for the British parliamentary system of the government rather than American presidential system of the government. The parliamentary system is based on the principle of the cooperation and coordination between the legislative and the executive organs, while the presidential system is based on the doctrine of the separation of the powers between the two organs. The parliamentary system is also known as the Westminster model of the government, responsible government, and the cabinet government. The Constitution establishes the parliamentary system not only at the center but also into the state. The features of the parliamentary governments in India are presence of the nominal and the real executives, majority party rule, collective responsibility of the executive to the legislature, membership of the ministers into the legislature, leadership of the prime minister or the chief minister, dissolution of the lower house, Lok Sabha or the assembly. Even though the Indian parliamentary system is largely based on the British pattern, there are some fundamental differences between the two. For example, Indian parliament is not a sovereign body like the British parliament. Further, the Indian state has the elected head, republic, while the British state has the hereditary head, monarchy. In the parliamentary system, whether in the India or Britain, the role of the Prime Minister has become so significant and crucial that the political scientists like to call it a prime ministerial government. Number 6. Synthesis of the parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. The doctrine of the sovereignty of the parliament is associated with the British parliament, while the principle of the judicial supremacy with that of the American Supreme Court. Just as the Indian parliamentary system differs from the British system, the scope of the judicial review power of the Supreme Court in the India is narrower than that of the what existed into the US. This is because the American Constitution provides for the due process of the law against that of the procedure established by the law contained into the Indian Constitution, Article number 21. Therefore, the framers of the Indian Constitution have preferred the proper synthesis between the British principles of the parliamentary sovereignty and American principle of the judiciary supremacy. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, can declare the parliamentary laws as unconstitutional, though its power of the judicial review The Parliament, on the other hand, can amend the major portion of the Constitution through its constitutional power. Number 7. Integrated and independent judiciary. The Indian Constitution establishes a judicial system that is integrated as well as independent. The Supreme Court stands at the top of the integrated judicial system in the country. Below it, there are the high courts. At the state level, under the high court, there are the hierarchy of the subordinate courts, that is, district courts and other lower courts. This single system of the courts enforces both the central laws as well as the state laws. Unlike in USA, where the federal laws are enforced by the federal judiciary and the state laws are enforced by the state judiciary. The Supreme Court is a federal court, the highest court of the appeal, the guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizens and the guardians of the Constitution. Hence, the Constitution has made various provisions to ensure its independent security of the tenure of the judges, fixed service conditions for the judges, all the expenses of the Supreme charged under the Consolidated Fund of the India, prohibited under the discussion onto the conduct of the judges in the designation, ban on the practice after the retirement, power to the punish for its contempt vested into the Supreme Court, separation from the judiciary from the executive, and so on. Number 8. Fundamental rights. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution guarantees 6 fundamental rights to all the citizens. Right to equality, article number 14 to 18. Right to freedom, articles 19 to 22. Right against the exploitation, articles 23 and 24. Right to freedom of the religion, article 25 to 28, concern and the educational rights, articles 29 to 30, and right to constitutional remedies, article number 32. The fundamental rights are meant for the promoting the idea of the political democracy. They operate as the limitation onto the tyranny of the executive and the arbitrary laws of the legislature. They are the justiciable in the nature. That is, they are enforced by the courts for their violation. The aggrieved person can be directly go to the Supreme Court, which can be issue the rights of the habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, sanctuary, and to the quo warranto for the restoration of his right. However, the fundamental rights are not absolute and subject to the reasonable restriction. Further, they are not sacrosanct and can be curtailed or repealed by the Parliament through the Constitutional Amendment Act. They can also be suspended during the operation of the National Emergency Act, except the rights guaranteed to the Articles 20 and 21. Number 9. Directive principles of the state policy. According to the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the directive principles of the state policy is a novel feature of the Indian Constitution. They are enumerated into the Part 4 of the Constitution. They can be classified into the 3 broad categories: socialistic, Gandhian, and the liberal intellectual. The directive principles are the main for the promoting the ideal of the social and the economic democracy. They seek to establish a welfare state in the India. However, unlike fundamental rights, the directives are non-justiciable in the nature. That is, they are not enforced by the courts for their violation. Yet the Constitution itself declares that these principles are the fundamentals into the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. Hence, they impose a moral obligation onto the state authorities for their application, but the real force, sanctum behind them is political. That is the public opinion. In the Minerva Mills case, 1980, the Supreme Court held that the Indian Constitution is founded on the bedrock of the balance between the fundamental rights and the directive principle. Number 10. Fundamental duties. The original Constitution did not provide for the fundamental duties of the citizen. These were added during the operation of the Internal Emergency 1975 to 77 by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of the 1976 under the recommendation of the Swaran Singh Committee. The 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of the 2002 added one more fundamental duty. The Part 4A of the Constitution, which consists of the only one article 15(1)(a), specific the 11 fundamental duties vice to the respect of the Constitution, national flag, and the national anthem, to protect the sovereignty, unity, and the integrity of the country, to the promote the spirit of the common brotherhood amongst all the people, the preservance the rich heritage of our composite culture, and so on. The fundamental duties serve as a reminder to the citizens that while enjoying their rights, they have also to be quite conscious of the duties they owe to their country, their society, and to their fellow citizens. However, like the directive principles, the duties are also not justiciable into the nature. Number 11, a secular state. The Constitution of the India stands for a secular state. Hence, it does not uphold any particular religion as a official religion of the Indian state. The following provisions of the Constitution reveal the secular character of the Indian state. The term secular was added to the preamble of the India Constitution by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of the 1976. The preamble secured to all citizens of the India liberty of the belief, faith, and worship. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws. Article number 14. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the ground of the religion. Article number 15. Equality of the opportunity for all citizens in the matters of the public employment. Article number 16. All persons are equally entitled to freedom of the consciousness, conscience, and to the right of the freely profess, practice, and propagate any religious. Article number 25. Every religion, denomination, or any of its sections shall have the right to manage its religious affairs. Article number 26. No person shall be compelled to pay any taxes for the promotion or of the particular religion. Article number 27. No religion instruction shall be provided in any educational institution maintained by the state. Article number 28. Any section of the citizens shall have the right to conserve its distinct language, script, and culture. Article 29. All minorities shall have to the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. Article number 30. The states shall endeavor to secure for all the citizens of the Uniform Civil Code. Article number 44. The Western concept of the secularism cannot accompany separation between the religion, the church, and the state or the politics. This negative concept of the secularism is inapplicable into the Indian situation where the society is the multi-religious. Hence, the Indian Constitution embodies the positive concept of the secularism, that is to say, giving equal respect to all religions or the protecting all religions equally. Moreover, the Constitution has also abolished the old system of the communal representation. There is a reservation of the seats into the designation on the basis of the religion. However, it provides for the temporary reservation of the seats for the scheduled caste and to the scheduled tribe to ensure adequate representation of them. Number 12. Universal adult franchises. The Indian Constitution adopts the universal adult franchises as the basis of the election to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. Every citizen who is not less than 18 years of the age has a right to the vote without any discrimination of the caste, race, religion, sex, literacy, wealth, and so on. The voting age was reduced to the 18 years from the 21 years into the 1989 by the 61st Constitutional Amendment Act of the 1988. The introduction of the universal adult franchise by the constitution maker was bold experiment and highly remarkable in view of the vast size of the country, its huge population, high poverty, social inequality, and overwhelming illiteracy. Universal adult franchise makes democracy broad-based, enhances and self-respect and the prestige of the common people, upholds the principle of the equality, enables minorities to protect their interests, and opens up new hopes and vistas for the weaker section. Number 13. Single citizenship. Though the Indian Constitution is a pattern and envisages a dual policy centered and the state, it provides for only single citizenship, that is the Indian citizenship. In the country like USA, on the other hand, each person is not only citizen of the USA but also citizen of the particular state to which he belongs. Thus, he owes the allegations to the both and to the enjoys the due sets of the right, one conferred by the national government and another by the state government. In India, all citizens, irrespective of the state in which they are born or the reside, enjoy the same political and the civil rights of the citizenship all over the country, and no discrimination is made between them. Despite the constitutional provision for the single citizenship and to the uniform rights for all people, India has been the witnessing the communal riots, class conflict, caste war, linguistic clashes, and to the ethnic disputes. This means that the cherished goal of the constitution maker to build united and integrated Indian nation has not been fully realized. Number 14, independent bodies. The Indian constitution not only provided for the legislative, executive, and the judicial organs of the government, central and the state, but also establishes the certain independent bodies. They are the envisaged by the constitution as the bulkworm of the democratic system of the government in India. These are Election Commission to ensure free and fair election to the Parliament, the state legislature, the Office of the President of the India, and the Office of the Vice President of the India, Comptroller, and to the Auditor General of the India to the audit the accounts of the central and the state government. He acts as the guardian of the public purse and to the comments on to the legality or the propriety of the government expenditure. Union Public Service Commission to conduct the examination for the recruitment of to on India services and the higher central services, and to advise the president or on the disciplinary matter. State Public Service Commission to every state to conduct the examination for the recruitment to the state services and to advise the governor or the disciplinary matters. The Constitution ensure the independence of these bodies through the various provisions like the security of the tenure, fixed service conditions, expenses being charged onto the consolidated fund of the India, and so on. Number 15, emergency provisions. The Indian Constitution contains the enumerated emergency provisions to enable the President to meet any extraordinary situation effectively. The rationality behind the incorporation of these provisions is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and the security of the country, the democratic political system, and the Constitution. The Constitution envisages the three types of the emergencies, namely national emergency on the ground of the war or the external aggressions or the armed rebellions, Article 352. State emergency, President's rule on to the ground of the failure of the constitutional machinery into the state, Article number 356, or the failure to comply with the direction of the center, Article 365. Financial emergency on the ground of the threat to the financial stability or the credit of the India, Article number 360. During an emergency, the central government becomes the all-powerful and the states go into the total control of the center. It converts the federal structure into the unitary one without a formal amendment of the constitution. This kind of the transformation of the political system from federal during the Norman times to the unitary during the emergency is the unique feature of the Indian constitution. Number 16, three-tier government. Originally, the Indian constitution, like any other federal constitution, provided for the dual polity and contained provisions with regard to the organization and the powers of the center and to the state. Neither the 73rd and the 74th Constitution Amendment Act 1992 have added the third tier of the government, that is to say local, which is not found in any other constitution of the world. The 73rd Amendment Act of the 1992 gives the constitutional recognition of the panchayats, rural local government, by the adding the new Part 9 and the new Schedule 11 to the Constitution. Similarly, the 74th Amendment Act of the 1992 gave the constitutional recognition to the municipalities, urban local governments, by the adding new Part 9A and to the new Schedule 12 to the Constitution. Number 17, cooperative societies. Into the 97th Constitution Amendment Act of the 2011 gave a constitutional status and to the protection to the cooperative societies. In this context, it made the following three changes into the Constitution. It made the right to form the cooperative society a fundamental right, Article 19. It included a new directive principle of the state policy on the promotion of the cooperative society, Article 43b. It added new Part 9B into the Constitution, which is entitled as the Cooperative Society, Article 243ZA and 243ZD. The new Part 9B contains various provisions to ensure that the cooperative societies in the country function in the democratic, professional, autonomous, and economically sound manner. It empowers the parliament in respect of the multi-state cooperative societies and the state legislature in the respect of the other cooperative societies to make the appropriate law. Thank you very much.